Stack sats or die trying. Bitcoin is the solve for the issue that they're having. Oh, all the groceries are getting more expensive. The thing that you're using to buy the product has changed. It's been devalued. It sucks now. When our money is destroyed, really what we're destroying is our time. Bitcoin is designed to preserve your purchasing power. The dollar is designed to lose purchasing power. We found a way to digitize gold. Absolutely insane. Bitcoin's gonna demonetize everything. People who save in Bitcoin, their life gets half off or more. So different than anything that's ever existed. Charlie Munger, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, your time is over now. You're just losing money because you're not holding Bitcoin. Apple stock goes up 10%. It's a really good job. Then Bitcoin goes up 150%. Crypto is a small part of the fiat system. What about XRP? What about Solana? What about ETH? You're coping. People like me are selling our dollars for Bitcoin. You will lose all your money. The whole point of Bitcoin is that there's no guy at the top waiting to rug you. I'm buying Bitcoin so that I can try to hold it forever. It'll be worth an infinite amount of dollars. Oh, I'm too late. It's 100,000. I think that you're a coping moron. Dude, you're getting a chance to buy it before it's 100 trillion. What are you talking about? Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. You can just keep making dollars. That's literally insane. You're going to be working for $100,000 an hour and you're still going to be poor. That question was never asked once, and that pisses me off. When's the best time to buy Bitcoin? Yesterday. So the second best time is today.
What is your favorite thing about Bitcoin?
My favorite thing, I would say, is probably...
All right, Jordan, GenZBTC. How's it going, man? Thanks for being here.
What's up? How you guys doing? It's awesome to be on your channel. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to be talking with you.
Yeah, man, thank you. I'm a fan of your channel. Obviously, it's at GenZBTC on X, on YouTube. You're putting out a ton of great content. You're making the videos with the blackboard in the background, which I dig, and you got like great personality and great thoughts and great content in the videos. So I appreciate what you're doing, and thanks for being on the show. I'm gonna get started with this first question and see if we can jump this off to a good Bitcoin conversation. What is your favorite thing about Bitcoin?
And that's such a impossible question, because there's so many things, especially the more you learn about Bitcoin, you realize it's not just one thing. But my favorite thing, I would say, is probably the cooperation aspect of Bitcoin. And that ties into so much different stuff. But the major thing is the idea of mining and the way that miners are incentivized to cooperate, right? So when we have mining operations set up in the United States, in Canada, in Russia, China, Australia, all over the world, in Europe, what doesn't matter where, all miners are incentivized to follow the rules of Bitcoin. All right. One of the greatest inventions or the greatest achievement that was Satoshi was able to figure out was how to get everyone to agree on something without having a central authority in charge to tell people, to walk around with the big stick to tell people, hey, you need to follow these rules and do this and do that, So that is one of the greatest feats ever accomplished, because people can't agree on anything. You know what I mean? It's so hard to get people to agree on anything. And to get people who don't speak the same language, who don't follow the same religion, who don't believe the same things, who don't live in the same place, who have never met each other, who don't trust each other, actually, to work together and follow the same rules is my favorite part of Bitcoin. I think that's the most impressive part of Bitcoin, in my opinion.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. I mean, I agree with that. Obviously, I think like that theme of aligned incentives has come up multiple times in these conversations that I've had, where it's just amazing how no matter what with Bitcoin, it always comes back to the incentives are set up so well that it motivates even self-interested economic actors to do the right thing for the network and for each other. What I think is super interesting about how it was set up and why normies have such a kind of hard time grokking Bitcoin is so much of the current system is everything is about trusting a third party, right? Like everything is about, well, I trust the bank and they're not going to screw me over until one day something happens where it goes wrong. Do you agree with that idea that like people don't really get Bitcoin until they have a need for it, until they need to get it because something about the existing system or the existing way they do their money kind of goes wrong?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think in the existing system, we're always looking for an authority figure to point to. Oh, I don't want to take charge of my own economic security. Like, I don't want to make decisions for myself, actually. A lot of the times what people want when they say, oh, we need to preserve our democracy, what they mean is preserve our bureaucracy. And then on top of that, I need to wait for the politician to tell me what's okay. I need to wait for the expert to tell me what's okay, And there's obviously a place for experts. I'm a Bitcoin expert. You know what I mean? So there is certain things that we might want to trust or whatever, but The whole ethos of Bitcoin is that we don't necessarily trust anyone. We want to verify it for ourselves as best as we can. And having the ledger being transparent lets us do that. Having the code be open source lets us do that. Um, so, there's no need to wait for anyone to give you the right to do something. We can just do things. You can just take control of your financial life. And I think people aren't really used to anything like that, especially when all the experts who are kind of in the old system are saying, oh, it's digital, it's fake, it's not going to make it, it's not going to work. These are the same people who said that, the internet was a scam, it's only used by criminals, it's for drug selling, it's completely useless, it's a fad. They said the same thing about the iPhone. Oh, it doesn't even have a keyboard. How are you going to send emails? It's absolutely garbage. It's too expensive. It's not good. So that's conventional wisdom. It might be a good idea in the 21st century when someone's developing a digital monopoly, which is Bitcoin, to maybe not cling to the conventional wisdom. You might want someone with a forward thinking mindset, maybe someone a little bit younger, Charlie Munger, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett. Yeah, they don't really get it, and they were good at their thing, but your time is over now, and the time of the future generation, the people who will take over, that time is now starting. That's the time of the Gen Zers, the millennials, the Gen Alpha, who will continue to inherit the earth as the older people leave. It's the same song and dance. The people who came before the boomers said the same thing. Oh, all the boomers, all these young generation, they're all lazy and they're not going to work and blah, 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 blah. Everyone says that about everyone all the time, but if we're going to be real, every generation, every lazy generation built the world and they made it better. So, let's just be real with ourselves. Okay. Give the new people a little bit of grace. Trust me, I'm old compared to some of the kids these days who are online playing games and making TikToks and making shorts. And sometimes they seem pretty stupid as hell. But at the end of the day, they're the future leaders. Like they'll grow up and they'll take care of the world. So I can't be too harsh on the young folk.
Tale as old as time. I agree with what you're saying. Where like I'm pretty sure I've seen a real clip from a book or something that was written in like the 1800s that basically said like, or like a newspaper clipping that basically said like, oh, books are going to ruin kids these days because they're going to be inside reading all day instead of being outside like plowing the fields or whatever. It's like just like you said, every generation's been saying that about the next generation is lazy and that they're going to be ruined by whatever technology they're adopting that I'm too old to understand. Like yeah. I think there was a recent like Bill Gates thing, right, where he said again, he came and said like has no use, Bitcoin has no use case or whatever. And my sort of like tweet or whatever response or whatever was like, this is like asking the guy who's in the top 1,000th% of people who've benefited from the existing system. Hey, what do you think about this new disruptive system? And he's like, no, we don't need that. Legacy media thinks that this guy's an expert on technology because he built something 30 years ago. And like clearly, obviously, he has no incentive and no desire or no reason to bother understanding what's coming next because it's not going to benefit him. It's going to benefit us, right?
Yeah. No, 100%.
Obviously, GenZBTC is in the name. I know part of your mission is like educating, people in your generation. I don't always love to like you said, like pit the generations against each other. But I do think it's interesting to kind of think about who's coming next. What do you see right now in terms of like people in your sort of age cohort?
Well, I am definitely the Bitcoin guy at my job and in my friend group and pretty much everywhere I go. I always try to wear like just like a Bitcoin shirt or like a hat, you know what I mean? Just something kind of subtle because as I've been in Bitcoin longer, you kind of start to understand that, hey, I want to tell everyone about this, but at the same time, you don't really want to be that guy who's trying to mention it every single second. You know what I mean? In the club, talking to a girl like, hey, let me tell you about this Bitcoin thing. Like it's probably not the best idea. It might work, but let's be real, it's probably not the method, right? So what I'm seeing with younger people is that they are really, really, really addicted to gambling, right? They're really addicted to gambling, whether that's sports betting, whether that's just going to the casino constantly, slots, but mostly sports betting and mostly crypto. And that's why we try to separate Bitcoin from crypto. It's really important to make that separation, all right? Because crypto is a small part of the fiat system that we currently have, the current banking system. That's what crypto is. Bitcoin is a system outside of the current system, right? Like if we had two circles, right? There's fiat and then a crypto is a tiny piece of that. And then there's Bitcoin on the outside of that, which is its own thing, and people have a hard time grasping that because, well, isn't Bitcoin a cryptocurrency? Yes, it is defended by cryptography, but it represents something that is so different than anything that's ever existed. That's why it's been the number one cryptocurrency 16 years running, and it will be the number one crypto for the next 16 years going, you know? Young people are really addicted to sports betting and to trying to find crypto meme coin moonshots, right? And the reason why that is because, you know, there's a certain level of nihilism that comes with gambling, you know, especially when you are constantly gambling, constantly losing, and yet you still try to go because you don't actually see a future where you'd be able to make enough money to take care of what you have to take care of, to accomplish what you want to accomplish. So instead, what people do is they decide, oh, you know what? I'm going to become a gambler. You know, that's the only way that I could get enough money at one time to feel like I've done something with my life and to feel like I can go ahead and pursue something positive, you know, because working like I'm working right now is not going to work for me. I'm only making $18 an hour. I'm struggling. I can barely pay my rent. I'm just going to try to gamble to see if I can get ahead, you know. That's what they see as investing, you know? Well, this parlay is going to make me money and then I can get ahead of my bills and everything's going to be a-okay. Then the parlay misses. Okay, well, I shouldn't have bet that tennis game. I don't even watch tennis, you know? And next time I'll just keep it strictly NBA and it'll be all okay. And then they do strictly NBA and it's not okay. Oh, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do crypto. I'll go ahead and get on Moonshots, that one website, that one app where it literally launches meme coins. They go up and down in a day and then get deleted. You know, I literally have friends at my job who are in these Telegram group chats and they're like, oh, well, we're going to put $20 in. We're going to wait for the signal and then we're going to sell. And again, that's also pretty negative because in a system like that, you need to dump on people. You need people to lose money. You actually need them to lose money for you to gain. You know, so this is a zero sum game. It's honestly really cringe. You know, it is not productive at all. It's super nihilistic. And it's just this idea of, you know, well, my life sucks. Nothing's good. Nothing's ever going to get much better. So I might as well just gamble with what I have. I'm not going to actually save for the future because the future doesn't exist for me. That's what a lot of people are saying when they do stuff like that. And that's what I'm seeing personally. You know, I try to every now and then mention Bitcoin, mention Bitcoin. Then it always comes back to, well, what about XRP? What about Solana? What about ETH? What about this? What about that? What about this? What about that? That's fine. Everyone kind of has that level of the journey. Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, dude, you're an idiot, blah, blah, blah. But I just tell them, hey, at the end of the day, in the short term, some of these could go up more than Bitcoin in the short term. But in the long term, people like me are selling our dollars for Bitcoin the same way that someone in a different country would sell their pesos for US dollars. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a big difference between what me and you are doing, you know, and once you start to understand that, if you have any questions, come to me. You know, I think Bitcoiners need to be a resource for people. It's funny to make fun of people and dunk on them and make them feel like shit or whatever. And sometimes they do deserve it 100%. But I think the biggest thing we can do, whether you're young or old, is to just try to be a resource for people when it is time for them to try to understand Bitcoin. You know, it doesn't happen all at once. And we can talk about my Bitcoin story, your Bitcoin story in a minute, but it doesn't happen all at once. You don't just immediately realize that, oh, this is the greatest technology ever conceived. You know, you don't, that doesn't happen at first. It just happens over time.
Do you feel like when people get burned by crypto, do they? I think there's some subset of people who go, "Oh, that whole thing is a scam, Bitcoin included," and they just run away forever. But do
Yeah.
you feel like people that you see, do they make that journey of, "Oh, I realized this crypto was a scam, and this crypto was a scam, and this crypto was a scam," and they're slowly moving towards Bitcoin? Or do you see them kind of like typically going, just being so burned that they just run back to the comfort of fiat and they're just never going to come near crypto again?
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of grifters, you know what I mean? Because in the age of inflation and all this other stuff, and when we have a society full of perverse incentives and everyone fighting for themselves, you know, you're gonna find grifters. You're gonna find people who want to believe in something. You kind of let them cling to it, and then you rug them at the last moment. You know, and the fact that Bitcoin is so different from everything else that's ever existed in history makes it really hard to compare it to anything. All right. And then because of that, we have people who are like, well, Bitcoin's old technology. It's 16 years old. My new coin that I made last night in my mom's basement is way faster. It's way stronger. It's way smarter. It's way more better. It's way more clever. Okay. Make sure you give me $100. Okay. And then everything's going to be a-okay. What does my token do? Well, look, don't ask me too many questions. How about we just put the money up front? All right. And then I'll take care of the rest. Okay. Thank you very much. Then all of a sudden, the coin's gone. It's blown up. It's down 30%, slowly grinding down to a halt. And people do definitely feel so burned that they lump Bitcoin in with crypto. And then they say, I'm done with all this garbage. I'm sticking to real investing. Okay. Real investing. I'm going to go buy more parlays. Okay. I'm going to go hit the slot machine. Real investing. I'm going to go buy gold. Oh my goodness. Absolutely insane. And like, okay, just really quickly to touch on what I just said. Gold will go up in dollar terms. Yes, that will happen. But the whole point is, why are you investing in other stuff when essentially you're just losing money because you're not holding Bitcoin? And that's another topic we can touch on in a minute. But at the end of the day, when you start to understand Bitcoin, you start to realize that there's something called the opportunity cost, right? So if you buy gold or you buy Apple stock instead of Bitcoin, and Apple stock goes up 10%, gold goes up 10% in the year, it's a really good job, even though inflation was 12%, but still nice. Well done. Then Bitcoin goes up 150%. So actually you missed out on 140%, which means you actually lost money, So more and more people start to realize that, it's absolutely crazy, but I'm going off the rails. Long story short, crypto leads to people running away from Bitcoin when Bitcoin is the solve for the issue that they're having. What's the issue that they're having? Their dollar is losing value over time. Their purchasing power is going down over time. So what happens is you might think, oh, all the groceries are getting more expensive. Everything's getting more expensive, which in a way that's true, but reframe that lens. What's actually happening is your dollar is worth less and the groceries are not changing. Okay. When you go to the store and you buy eggs, they're just eggs. There's nothing special. There are chickens inside of them. Okay. Like they're yolks. Like they're not special eggs. They're just eggs. Like it's just bread. You know what I mean? It's just yeast that's gone through a certain process and you turned it into bread. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing special about these products. They're being made the same way that they were 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 1,000 years ago. So nothing's changed about the product. The thing that you're using to buy the product has changed. It's been devalued. It sucks now. All right. So to get people to understand that as simply as possible is how we can get people onto the Bitcoin train. You know what I mean? To understand better. Bitcoin is designed to preserve your purchasing power. The dollar is designed to lose purchasing power, typically at 2% a year. That's the target. And then the Fed pretends like, oh, that's so good. You're only getting poorer 2% at a time. No, I think that's pretty bad. How about we get richer 2% at a time? Wouldn't that be good? How would that affect society? So we have to reframe the way that we look at things. You know what I mean? Because it's been beat into us and there's no one to teach you. You didn't learn about money in school. Maybe you did. I don't know. I didn't. You know what I mean? I'm a victim of the American education system. And guess what? We never talked about money. We never talked about investing or taxes or the Federal Reserve or government spending or none of that stuff. All right. We're up here to talk about the Pythagorean theorem and how the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. And I'm not saying those things are completely irrelevant or unimportant, but you might want to talk about money as well because everyone has to use money. Everyone has to use money in society. And yet we talk about it never. It's absolutely insane. Almost like it's by design.
Well, just like you said, it is by design because I didn't learn about money until I was in college. And then when I was in college, guess what I learned? Inflation's good for you. QE is good for you. We need to do these things. So of course, when you make Bitcoin content, same as me, of course, anytime it goes outside the Bitcoin bubble and pushes into the algorithm of a normie, all you get is we need 2% inflation. Otherwise the economy won't work. You're like, have you ever thought about what that actually means? And even if you want to believe that Keynesian economics is true, think about yourself for 2 seconds. Why do you want to argue that you losing 2% of your purchasing power every year is a good thing for you? It's not a good thing for you personally, even if you think it's a good thing for the economy at large, right? Like basically, like you said, the Fed is telling you best case scenario, you're losing half of the money you save in 35 years. That's best case scenario. If they hit their 2% inflation target, guess what? They don't hit it. They just they just juice the numbers and tell you that they hit it. So like either way, you're getting screwed no matter what. You talked about like people getting burned about crypto and they don't understand the difference. Like what's your go-to? What do you tell them when they say, well, how's Bitcoin different?
Dang, that's a really great question. And typically what I try to do is just to get people to understand that the whole point of Bitcoin is that there is no CEO, there's no issuer, there is no one controlling the coin, there is no headquarters, there is no roadmap, there is no HR team, there is no PR team, there is no like pyramid scheme, like there's no guy at the top waiting to rug you. This is a monetary system rather than some sort of technological app. You know what I mean? Like, this is not Apple. This is not Facebook. This is not Google. Instead, what this is the internet, right? So Apple is built on top of the internet. Google's built on top of the internet. Facebook is built on top of the internet. So there's Bitcoin, the network, and then there's Bitcoin, the asset, right? So the only real difference, or the main difference between Bitcoin and all these other coins, is that there's a network that's involved with Bitcoin, right? And it's a truly scarce network. Most coins are not truly scarce, all right, because of the fact that they're not truly decentralized. So a good example of this is XRP. XRP has a fixed supply of, I believe it's 100 billion. But the problem with this is XRP is not decentralized, right? Now, when people say, no, it is decentralized, it is. Again, one, you're coping. Let's just call it like it is. And two, do you run an XRP node? And then they'll say, oh, no, of course. Well, do you know what the size of the required node is to run XRP? And it would be like 22 terabytes to run a full node of XRP, and that's real. A lot of these guys are not running XRP nodes because they don't actually believe in the protocol. What they're doing is they're buying XRP, hoping it goes from $3 to $7 so they can sell it, and then they can do whatever with the money, whatever they're going to do. The difference between, again, a Bitcoiner and someone who's buying money in crypto is that I'm buying Bitcoin so that I can try to hold it forever, like for as long as possible. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people who are going to hold their Bitcoin until it's not worth any dollars, because it'll be worth an infinite amount of dollars. You know what I'm saying? Like, and at that point, Bitcoin will be the unit of account. So then instead of paying $5 at the grocery store, they'll pay 5 Satoshis, right? And right now you can buy 1,000 Satoshis for $1. So if you think about it, they're really having this grand vision for the future, which I do think will happen. That will be achieved. It's just many years off, maybe 20 years, 25 years off. But there are people like that who are not going to sell a single sat until that time comes, because they're selling dollars for Bitcoin. They're not buying Bitcoin. They're selling dollars.
Well, you mentioned the pesos dollars example, right? Like, I think Saylor said that once upon a time, like one of his famous things where the woman, the interviewer on, like, cable news or whatever said, well, aren't you going to try to sell when it gets to the top? Or aren't you going to try to sell and lock in profits? And he's
Yeah.
like, do people in Venezuela buy dollars and then wait and then sell them, go back into the bolivar to lock in their profits? It's like, no. You don't understand. This is not an investment, a trade you're trying to make to lock in profits. This is moving from weaker currency to stronger currency. If you study history for 5 minutes, you'll understand weaker currencies, weaker monies get demonetized. All the value, the monetary premium gets sucked out of one and into another.
Yeah.
If you're holding the weaker one, you're going to zero. If you're holding the stronger one, it sucks up all the monetary premium forever. And I see so much of, like, people with Reddit or whatever who are saying, like, oh, they can only see it through that lens of, they think it's a Ponzi scheme, and they can only see it through the lens of, it's a greater fool theory. You're just waiting for the next guy to pay you more dollars for it. And they don't understand the monetary history of, no. When gold devalued seashells, there was no going back. The people holding the harder money are going to suck all the monetary premium and value out of the weaker money forever.
Greater fool theory. Dude, that is the biggest cope thing I've ever heard in my life, because it's literally just investing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you bought Apple for $1 and now you sold it for $100. It's just a scam. You just sold it to a greater fool. No, I think that the Apple company got more valuable over time. You know what I mean? I think that you're a coping moron and you're crying because you got in too late.
Well, they'll always pivot. They'll always say it's a greater fool theory. You're just trying to buy it and sell it to somebody for more later. And you say, well, isn't that what people do with stocks? Like, isn't that what you're doing with Apple? And then they'll pivot and move the goalpost and say, oh, well, a stock is a company that has earnings, so that's what gives it value. And I'm like, you don't understand. You just made 2 different arguments. Okay, one argument is you think it's just the greater fool theory has no value. The other one is you only think something has value based on its future cash flows or its earnings. These are 2 different arguments. Like, Bitcoin has value, but not for the reasons a company has value. Like, obviously what you said earlier. It's not a tech company. It's an entire revolution. It's a protocol that with a monetary network with a native token to it, that if anyone wants to access the value of that monetary network and send money anywhere in the world with no third party, with no permission, in less than 10 minutes for almost nothing, if you want to access that network, you need to own the token, which is Bitcoin. So that token will forever go up in fiat exchange rate value because more and more people are demanding it, because more and more people want access to that network.
And again, no cash flows, has no value. Okay, what about gold? Why does gold have any value? Where are
Right.
the cash flows? Oh, it's almost like there are certain properties of money that
Exactly.
make it valuable. You know what I mean? So like this is all stuff that takes time to understand. And again, if you're a hater, then yeah, you will cope. But over time, if you're a rational actor, you can be a hater and a rational actor. It's just that your pipeline, the hater to rational actor pipeline, goes from right here and you get closer and
It's
closer
the
and closer to
spectrum.
being rational. Closer, closer, and then right here, now you're rational, and then you become a Bitcoiner. You know what I mean? Like, so that's just how it is.
Yeah. Well, I like back what you said about the like. I think it was Corey Clipson from Swan or whatever who like wrote this
Yep.
piece recently where he coined the term scambling, and I'm like,
Yep.
that's so good. I'm surprised somebody didn't come up with that before. But
Yeah.
basically, it's like just like you said, everything. Super Bowl just happened, right? I mean, there's less crypto ads in Super Bowl this year, but it's a different
Yeah. They
story.
didn't want another FTX
Right.
situation.
Yeah. But it's like I agree with what you said. Like everything is gambling or crypto, and people don't. I get so frustrated. Even when I watch like big monetary channels, and some of these people are really good at pointing at the problem and saying, "Look how much a house cost 50 years ago, and look how much a house costs now. Look how much things have gone up. Look how much rent's gone up in healthcare." And some people will like really point out the problem. And these channels that are bigger, they never quite come all the way back to the existence of the money printer is the cause of that problem. And the scambling is just like so out of hand because it feels so bad for people who can't see that what's really happening is they're just getting their purchasing power of their dollar devalued, and they can't see that the financial revolution, the answer is right there in front of them when you're
Yeah.
making content about it. And you're like, oh, these people like, I'm trying to kind of save you. I'm not trying to say like I'm friggin' Jesus, but like, I'm trying to help you. And you just like refuse to listen. Oh, do you ever feel that way when you're making content?
No, for sure. And it's kind of reflected in the views. Even Matthew Crowder, he is the biggest
Yeah.
YouTube Bitcoin channel to my knowledge. And yeah, there are other channels that are bigger that talk about crypto. He's the biggest Bitcoin only YouTube channel to my knowledge, right? And his views are quite frankly, based on his subscriber count, they suck. Like he has 270,000 subs, but most of his videos do 13,000, 15,000, 13,000. And that's crazy, so that's kind of a problem in and of itself. And then I think that if you talk to people again in real life, one, they're focused on everything other than the problem. And then two, even when you were to ask them, well, what is the problem? They don't know. And I think that's the biggest problem right there. That's the biggest disconnect. What is the problem? Someone dropped a really great video recently called What's the Problem with some sort of animated character and a red button. I have not watched it yet, but I need to. I know it's so
Yeah,
good. I
it's
haven't
good. I
watched
watched
it.
it. Yeah.
But like I understand that the real issue is that people don't understand why prices change or where money comes from because again, we're never taught that in the first place. So when you see people talking about, oh, well, the price of this is so high when it used to be lower in the past, they don't really know exactly why that is. And a lot of people don't know the difference between the price of something or the value of something and then the purchasing power. That's another big thing. So getting people to understand the problem first is completely necessary. Otherwise, Bitcoin just sounds like gibberish. It sounds like a solution in search of a problem. That's what people say about Bitcoin all the time because they don't know what the problem is. They feel that something's a little bit wrong, but they can't quite put their finger on it. And it's up to us to not only understand what Bitcoin is, but to understand the nuance of macro and some microeconomics, of personal finance, how it affects people individually, and where Bitcoin can fit in to assist them to solve their problem, and what type of Bitcoin is the best fit for what type of person, because that's a whole nother discussion. Should you get the ETF? Should you be buying MicroStrategy? Should you be buying native Bitcoin? Which should you be keeping it on Strike? Should you be keeping it in Swan? Should you be buying your own hardware wallet and then securing your own Bitcoin? And that answer is actually different for everyone. Some people want to say, oh, well, you need to hold your own keys. You have to. And for most people, I mean, not even for most, but for a lot of people, yes, I agree with that. Yes, I have my own keys. But there's older people who need to secure their financial future. They might be 65, 70. They might have another 30 years in front of them, especially as medicine and stuff gets better. So I don't know if I would suggest that they hold their private keys inside of a cold card. I don't think that's the greatest idea. Maybe it might work. I don't know. I think a better solution would be joint custody somehow with like River Financial or have it in their ETF with a bank that they trust, whatever it might be. There's going to be more solutions for people that continue to arise because we're going to make more Bitcoin products, and that's just part of the future.
Yeah, I like that perspective because I think it's based on a lot of the scarring in the past of what people have gone through with like going all the way back to Mt. Gox and then all the way through to whatever you want to call it, Celsius, FTX, all these things. That's why you get a lot of the like not your keys, not your coins rhetoric, right? Like if you go to Reddit or wherever you go, it's just like that's hammered into you, and that you're not a real Bitcoiner if you're not holding your keys. Like you need it on a hardware wallet, da 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 da. But I agree with you that if we want adoption and as we see this thing scale, not every single person is going to want to or have the technical wherewithal or whatever to like custody their own Bitcoin. So we need, I think, a lot more of these different types of solutions, like you're saying. Do you see any risks there where you're worried about, okay, too much centralization if not enough people are custodying their own stuff?
I think that it's definitely wouldn't be good if everyone was just like, oh, we're just going to put all of our money into the ETF. Probably not the brightest idea, but I think that there's going to be enough people who have seen the past mistakes of other Bitcoiners. I lost money in Voyager. Okay, like Voyager went down. I still haven't got all my money back, so I'm still pissed off about that.
Yeah.
So they still owe me 33%. 34% if we want to talk semantics. All right, so that's gonna happen to you if you trust other people. Again, the whole point of Bitcoin is obviously to push cooperation as best as possible. And the truth is, Bitcoin was not disrupted by FTX collapsing or Voyager collapsing or Terra Luna depegging or whatever it is. It was the systems like FTX that got smoked. Voyager got smoked. Luna got smoked. The scammers got smoked. Bitcoin never skipped a beat. It kept validating blocks every 10 minutes. It never glitched. There were just a lot of people who were scared, a lot of people who lost their keys because they trusted those keys with someone else. All right, that's the whole thing. Like the network itself was totally fine. The Bitcoin wasn't hacked or anything. You signed an agreement trusting these people to hold your Bitcoin for you. They lied about holding it. They were lending it out to other people to try to make more money. That's what that is. So if you don't like that, if you think that you can't trust River, if you can't trust Strike, if you can't trust Coinbase, if you can't trust all these different institutions like BlackRock and Fidelity and State Street or whoever it is, then you need to hold your own keys. And Bitcoin allows us to do that. It's the first digital thing that you can actually own by itself. So if you take a photo on your phone, you don't actually own the photo by yourself because it's probably uploaded to the cloud. Okay. And even if it's not, if you take it on like an Apple device, I guarantee you there's some way that it's stored locally. So if you were to try to delete it and then all of a sudden there's an FBI investigation into you, they're going to somehow find that photo. You know what I mean? Because that's information, that's digital information that's now been shared with someone else. It's not just yours. When it comes to Bitcoin, when you hold your own keys, the keys are actually yours and only yours. Okay, like the data is not stored locally, at least not to the knowledge of anyone, because the products are built in a way that's open source. When it comes to something open source, though, like Blockstream Jade, which is my favorite one to use, not sponsored yet, but Jade is awesome and it's open source, so you can check. Do they have any secret backdoors? Is there a way for people to take your Bitcoin? Blah 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 blah. And it seems like no, it's not the case. So when you generate those keys on that hardware wallet, you now own the keys to a Bitcoin block. So like imagine Bitcoin's like a safe in cyberspace. Inside the safe is the Bitcoin itself. Okay. The hardware device doesn't actually store Bitcoin. It stores the keys. So now you take your key out, you unlock your Bitcoin your box, and now you can take out the value if you so choose. And there's nothing else like that in the world. That's why it's so hard to compare Bitcoin to other stuff. This is the first ever digital commodity that people can take control of themselves. It's a digital bearer asset. Another way to put it, if I have a photo and then I send it to John, we both have the photo now. We have created an infinite digital version of this point in time. All right. If I send a Bitcoin to John, he has it now. I don't. The same way that if I have a gold bar in my hand and I pass it to him, he has the gold bar now. I don't. We found a way to digitize gold, so it's absolutely insane, insane invention.
I love that. I mean, I couldn't agree more. Like, and I see people who just like don't understand it. I made a video about it, a TikTok or whatever about that recently, where somebody was like, "Nothing digital is scarce," and I was like, Exactly. Until Bitcoin. That's the whole point, bro. Like that's the whole one of the innovations is like true digital scarcity. But some you could say, other things in digital world are scarce, but only artificially if enforced by a third party, right? True digital scarcity that we can all verify and prove and don't need a third party is one of the fundamental innovations. You talked too about like the volatility or you talked about even when FTX goes down and the Bitcoin price goes down, whatever. It's like, no, there's still a block average every 10 minutes. The network has like 99.999% uptime or whatever in its lifetime. So when people say like, oh, it's too volatile, it's not stable enough, I'm like, no, 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 no. The dollar is just going down forever. Bitcoin is the network is as stable as it gets. What you're talking about is fiat. I'm trying to like it's like trying to make fetch happen, but I'm like basically trying to almost stop saying price and start saying fiat denominated exchange rate because
Yeah.
that's all it is. You're just talking about an exchange rate between Bitcoin and dollars, and you're talking about $900 trillion of assets in a dollar world that are sloshing in and out of a $2 trillion market cap of Bitcoin. That's what's making the fiat denominated exchange rate go up and down. That's just people in the free market doing its thing. That's not anything to do with the Bitcoin network not being stable.
Yeah. No, that's it's a function of the dollar being unstable and of people being unstable. People are highly unstable, they're highly irrational, they're highly emotional, and sometimes something happens and they're like, oh, I need to panic, I need to have a mental breakdown right now and sell everything. But Bitcoin doesn't change. The same way if we have a financial crisis, all of a sudden gold will drop like 50, 60%. But what changed about gold? Nothing. It's still a certain amount of, atoms arranged in a certain way. It's a shiny yellow rock. It's still gold. Nothing changed about it. Everything else changed about it. Okay. All the people changed. All the money changed. It's like, oh man, there's something going on. There's a war. Oh, we need the price of gold to drop 50% or to increase 20%. The price of gold keeps going up. Why? Is gold changing? No, it's still the same thing. It hasn't changed since forever, actually. Since the start of the universe, it's still the same gold, but it's just that the dollar is changing over time. That's why the price is changing. So again, it's about reframing the way you see things. Like, no, gold's not changing, Bitcoin's not changing. It's the dollar that's changing, and it's people who are changing. Their view of the asset is changing.
The one you said too is like when people say Bitcoin's volatile, and I'm like, no, the thing you're measuring it. The other one I try to come up with the right analogy, but it's like the thing you're measuring it with is also changing. So of course you don't have an accurate measurement. My thing was like it's like saying a mile. If you take a mile, but the length of a ruler keeps changing every day, and people keep saying, "Well, miles are so volatile." Like, no, 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 no. You're measuring it in a ruler that's changing every single day. So of course it seems like a mile is going up and down. Like with this fish in this fishbowl. You talked about gold. I think people are like the fish in the fishbowl when it comes to gold. They're just like they were born and gold was money. Therefore, gold must be money forever. Well, it's just a shiny rock. Like you have to dig into why it became monetized in the first place. You talked about this earlier. It's like, what is money? What are the properties that human beings in the free market tried to use different things as money, and then they converged on gold because it better fit those properties, and it was the most scarce, the hardest to produce more of. So anybody who was holding something else, oopsie, like they got demonetized, and the thing they were holding went to zero against gold. And then gold won that competition for 5,000, I don't know, 10,000 years, whatever it is. And I'm
Yeah.
like, now we have Bitcoin, which all it has to do is go into a free market competition against gold and against the dollar. And you have 16 years of this competition where it's just slowly demonetizing these other things because it's just sucking the value out of them because the free market is going, oh, that's better money. So we're just going to more and more people using it and more the value going over there into Bitcoin.
Yeah. And like Bitcoin's going to demonetize everything. That doesn't mean everything's going to get free. It's just going to be really, really, really cheap in Bitcoin terms. And we've already seen that. Every 4 years, everything goes down 90% in Bitcoin terms. Every 4 years, everything goes down 90% in Bitcoin terms. So another way to say that is every 4 years, people who save in Bitcoin, their life gets half off. You know what I mean? Half off or more. So when you have people who've been in the game since 2015, 2014, those are guys who are really deep into the system, and hopefully they haven't lost all their coins, they haven't sold them all because they understand what's going on. You know, people like me, I started back in 2019, you know, and the evolution wasn't just, oh, Bitcoin is the greatest thing ever. I need to save all my money in this. Like, no, it started out, at least for me, it was, oh, okay, Bitcoin is like a digital money. That's pretty cool. It keeps going up. I'm going to put my stimulus check into Bitcoin. That was a good idea. And then it's like, this is amazing. I need to be investing in more stuff. Okay. Then I buy GameStop. That was a good idea. Then I buy AMC. That was a great idea. You know, and I keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. But then I'm like, oh wait, I need to hold on because people on Reddit are telling me, oh, these things are going to go up forever because reasons, you know? So it's like, okay, fine, perfect. This is great. I can make infinite money glitch. Then, of course, GameStop comes crashing down. I get smoked. AMC comes crashing down. I get smoked. Bitcoin keeps going up. Okay, this is great. I'm going to keep buying on Voyager. Voyager gets smoked. Now I'm pissed off. Oh my God, I've been scammed. And I feel even worse because I was telling people, hey, download Voyager, get on Voyager, buy Bitcoin, blah, blah, blah. I didn't even know what self-custody was. I didn't even think that was a thing. I had no idea. So then, a few years later, it is the end of 2022, or the end of 2023. It's the end of 2023. That's what it is. And I am just now getting back into Bitcoin because I'm hearing about the ETF maybe coming back. I'm looking at the price. It just bounced off 16,000. And I'm thinking, oh, you know, maybe if it goes back up to 64,000, I can like 4 times my money or something like that. This is a great idea. But then I stumble across a YouTube video called How Bitcoin Mining Works by Yoni Appleberg, you know, and it is one of the greatest videos of all time. It completely orange pilled me. And I was like, dude, this is the greatest thing anyone's ever invented, ever in history, you know, and that started the rabbit hole. So that was super awesome, absolutely amazing. And I'd love to hear your orange pill story as well. But since then, I've done nothing but continue watching podcasts, reading books, learning about finance, learning about investing. It completely did a 180 in the way that I saw the entire world, honestly, you know, and sometimes I think back and I'm like, what was I doing before Bitcoin? You
Dude,
know?
no, yeah, BC before Bitcoin and after Bitcoin. That's real, dude, in people's lives. That's real for sure. Like, yeah, well, no, thanks for telling your story. Like, I looked at my Coinbase app and I scrolled all the way to all the transactions back to the very, very beginning. I think it was like 2014 or 2015. I was like, I wanted to know the first price I bought Bitcoin at. It was like
Yeah.
400 something. And I
Oh,
was like, if only I knew what I know now.
yeah.
Because of course I didn't hold it. Of course. Like, of course I didn't. I didn't know
Yeah.
what, no idea what I was doing. You know? So that was my first like opening Coinbase, looking at an order book, like starting to understand a little bit of stuff. But I was on Reddit, like, what's the next coin? What's the next coin? What's the next coin? You know, oh, is it Litecoin? Da da da. I was in that, of course, because you just don't understand the difference in your first foray into it, right? And then, of course, like I sold it, and I can't remember. There was a bear market, and I just kind of like forgot about crypto for a while. And then eventually, probably 2019 or 2020, maybe somewhere around the same time as you, I think it was a sailor. Like I'm not even a Tucker Carlson guy, but I saw the Sailor did an interview with Tucker Carlson.
One of the greatest interviews of all time, by the way.
Yeah,
And
that
again,
was like
same
my
thing.
first
Same
orange
thing.
pill of
Not
me.
yeah, not a Tucker Carlson guy. You know what I mean? But like
Yeah,
that is the one of the greatest interviews about Bitcoin of all time, and
yeah.
it's just so underrated.
It blew my mind. I still remember. I think that was the first one that sort of like really orange pilled me. I know the way Sailor talks like isn't for everybody because he's using all these like energy analogies and stuff, and some people are like just it goes over their head or whatever. But he just like blew me away, and I was like, what the hell? And then that was when I got back into it, and then it's basically just consuming Bitcoin content, like you said, nonstop ever since. And I had like a thing with Celsius where like thank God I wasn't like putting everything I had in there, but I was like, oh, like trying to earn a little bit of extra fucking yield or whatever. I was like, this is so stupid. And I kind of knew it was risky and still, never again is the lesson, obviously, right? But
Yeah.
basically, I just like try to spend as much time as I can consuming and learning about Bitcoin because like I'm interested in the answers to all these questions. So like I want to know basically every time I see FUD, all the things you touched on, like, no cash flow, not stable enough, like greater fool theory. I go dive deep in as much as I can into like those things to really fully understand the answer. So if someone asks me that, I know how to explain to them in simple terms why that's not true. That's my hope. I think it
Yeah.
like takes so much study because the concepts are so deep and like the rabbit hole is so deep. That's the reason I wanted to start this show is because I was like, this rabbit hole never ends. Like I love it's so fun when you keep learning more about Bitcoin. You think you've learned everything you can, and then somebody comes out with some other idea that you never thought of before, and you're like, "Wait a second, dude, it never ends!" Like, so I was like, "All right, I
Yeah.
must start a show where I ask people what their favorite thing about Bitcoin is, and I hope I get a whole bunch of crazy different answers, and then see what happens."
Yeah, and we've kind of strayed a little bit off topic, but again, great conversation. And another thing is like people are going to be buying Bitcoin who aren't even born yet. You know what I mean? And that's literally insane. Because like everyone's saying, "Oh, I'm too late. I'm too late. It's 100,000." Dude, you're getting a chance to buy it before it's 100 trillion. You know what I mean? Like, what are you talking about? It's free. Like, Bitcoin's literally free right now. So, like, what I'll tell people is like, if you can't, as long as you can buy Bitcoin with dollars, it's literally free. The day that you can no longer purchase it with other currency, and the only way to earn it would be to build something or to make something or to work for it. At that point, yes, now you are officially late, unfortunately. But I think that's pretty far off. That might be outside of our lifetime. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe 30 years. I have no idea. It's so hard to tell. It's so hard to
Yeah,
tell.
well, that's like the only thing I'm uncertain of is the timeline, right? So it's like how we all are like I think certain of what's basically where this thing is headed and the directionality of it, and the timeline is the piece that's uncertain. Like, is it a million in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? Like, probably and hopefully sooner, but the timeline is the only thing that's uncertain. You touched upon like the people saying they're too late. Like, again, it goes back to just not understanding the problem. The pesos analogy, right? Is like, when are you too late exiting pesos for dollars? Like,
Yeah.
that's why we say there's no such thing. Like, there is no top.
Another way to put it as well is like, when are you too late to adopt better technology?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the answer is actually never. Okay. Like, you don't want to take, your whole life. Yeah. That would just make you an idiot. But if you want to adopt fire, you can do that. Especially if the other people have fire, you can go ahead and do that too. If they have the internet, yes, you can adopt the internet as well. It might take some time. Just ask them, hey, can you help me? Oh, yeah, for sure. Even though you talked a lot of shit, buddy, but sure, we'll help you now because you want to come over. That's fine. And then someone will help you, so you can adopt better technology at any time, whenever you're ready. And there might come a point where you might be forced to
Yep.
adopt better technology. That's the thing. You don't want to wait until you're forced to adopt it. The same way that, let's say, in the United States, and again, I don't know the full history of the currency. I know there was a time when every state, or every colony rather, the 13 colonies all had different currency. They all had different forms of currency between the states. And then I'm sure there was some point where they kind of regulated, hey, you know what, we're all using these types of bills now. You know, you don't want to be the one holding kind of like the fake currency until you're forced to use a real one, because then you're late to the party. Okay. They call you a laggard. And now you have the least amount of the new currency because you took so long to transition. The musical chairs game was going and you did not stop when the music stopped. You just kept walking around. There are no more chairs left for you. And now you're going to have a really tough time. That's what you don't want to do.
Yeah, 100%. Well, yeah, like I agree that you're right that right now it's your choice and you want to adopt it when you can. But there was a Saifedean a quote where he said like Bitcoin is like financial gunpowder,
Yep. There we
which
go.
is such a phenomenal analogy because he basically says does the French army have a choice whether or not to adopt gunpowder if another army has gunpowder? You don't have a choice because if you don't adopt it, then they're going to take you. They're coming for you, and their superior technology is taking you over. That is, I think, a good analogy for money. What we talked about earlier, the harder money demonetizes the weaker money. So if you're holding the weaker money, your purchasing power is just going to go to zero against the harder money. You mentioned earlier, gold is going up in dollar terms. Look at the gold Bitcoin chart. Like gold is already being demonetized by Bitcoin. If you're looking through a fiat lens, you don't see that. But it is going to, like, there's a funny one. I heard it from the guy on Simply Bitcoin. I don't know if he made this up, but they basically say, you take the orange pill now or you take the orange suppository later. Like, dude,
Yeah.
because like you said, it's coming for you.
Yeah. No, this is real life with real consequences. And again, now people might say, oh, you're just fear mongering, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine, whatever. But at the end of the day, the same way that if we're on an island and all of our money is like seashells, and then someone invents like a net or some sort of way to mass acquire seashells, they're going to demonetize the economy. Okay. This actually happened in real life. And then they're like, hey, you know what? This is why we want to switch to metal coins because they're much, much harder to make, and when you live in a society where the money is easy to make, then society begins to break. Shout out to Tuttle Twins, over there at Swan. Great TV show, greatest kid show maybe ever. All
Yeah.
right. But yeah, like at the end of the day, this is just the truth. Max Kaiser, Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. You can just keep making dollars. So if there's $1 trillion in existence right now, and there's 21 million Bitcoin, which again, you can verify that that is a true statement. Like, we're not just making up numbers. Like, you can go find that there's only 21 million Bitcoin. There are live streams of people live verifying that. They're super awesome. Bitcoin Sessions, has done a series on that. Then the government might be like, hey, you know what? We're going to make $2 trillion. We're going to make $10 trillion. You know what? We're going to make $100 trillion. You didn't vote on that. They just kind of did it. All right. And now there's $100 trillion chasing the same 21 million Bitcoins. That's going to keep going. That's the reason why the deficit keeps getting bigger and never smaller, because they kind of have to keep printing money. And because you cannot print Bitcoins, we understand that in the future, there's either going to be some sort of global monetary reset or whatever it might be. Maybe it never happens. Let's just say there's dollars forever. All right. If there's dollars forever, then one Bitcoin, again, is going to be worth $100 trillion. So again, if you have a Bitcoin, yay, good job, but if you don't, then you're going to be working for $100,000 an hour and you're still going to be poor. So I
Right.
don't know. It's up to you. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Would you, circling it back a little bit to the beginning, where we talked about people not understanding the problem and their purchasing power going down, like the conversation we just had, where it sounds like a little bit of fear mongering, but it's like if you're holding the wrong money, you're going to zero. That sounds theoretical. Oh, that's going to happen in the future. What I'm like trying with like basically all my content is to connect for people. No, that's what's already happening. That's that feeling of you can't afford your life anymore. Like that's that feeling of your savings and your earnings doesn't buy you what it bought you 5 years ago. That is what's happening. Like that is the thing you're holding and using as your money and your store value going down closer to zero. You can't buy anything with it anymore. And that is Bitcoin going up, which it is still getting adopted. So it's going up.
Yes.
For both reasons. It's going up because it's seeing more adoption, and it's going up because the thing you're measuring it in is going down.
Yes. And the concept of dollars going to zero is not new. People are just really arrogant and privileged because they feel like, oh, well, I'm an American. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, let's go. Dollars never going anywhere. We're just going to crush all the other countries that suck, and America's the only country. Dollars have continued to die over and 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 over again. This is not new. Like, this is not like the first time in history that currencies have been debased.
Well, basically every fiat currency that's ever existed has gone to zero. And we don't think the dollar that could happen because, we've just been doing this experiment for 50 years since it hasn't been backed by gold. It's like, yeah, it's an experiment and it's 5 decades long. Like in the long history of monies, that's not that long. Like, you really think it's just going to last forever?
Yeah, like we always learn, there was the fall of Rome back in the day. We never talk about why Rome fell. We never really talk about the thing that happened there. And again, it's related to money, and it's so disconnected from us because, again, we're not talking about it. And it happens in other countries like Syria and Libya and some places in Latin America. But like those are all fake countries. You know what I mean? Those are all like dirty, little disgusting countries. They're not like the United States. They're not good countries like the US. Good countries like the US would never have their currency go to zero. And I think that's going to be the wake up call and like the most painful thing for like a lot of people as they start to see the next big print, which speaking of which, the big print. Yes, I got my copy. Great book. I haven't even read it yet, and I know it's a great book, but I'm going to continue reading it. And what this book is talking about when he says the big print, what he means is like there's going to be another gigantic print of money. During COVID, we saw a very big print of money. And that's why we feel the effects of money printing years later. That's why we feel it today. And the next big print will probably be one of the last ones. And because the effect will be so irreversible that you cannot stabilize the economy after that. You just get Weimar Germany,
Yeah, we're seeing it after the last one. I mean, they thought they could get away with it in 2008. 2008, they basically did. And then they thought their lesson from 2008 for COVID, their lesson was, no, we need to print more money and we need to do it faster. That's what they learned from 2008. We didn't do it fast enough. We didn't print enough. So in COVID, that's what they did. And the effect, like you're saying, the effects of it feel pretty irreversible. I mean, obviously, society's not crumbling right this second, but the inflation effects feel pretty dramatic and pretty irreversible, and the wealth inequality has gone nuts, and it's not going back.
Like, you just want to start asking the questions. Okay, well, where does the debt come from? Who do we owe the debt to? Is there a way to pay the debt back? Like, you start asking that, because no one's asking that question. The presidential debate, that question was never asked once, and that pisses me off. So it's just ridiculous, dude. It's all performative, it's all theater, and then that makes you start questioning some politicians. What are their incentives? Who's paying them? You know what I mean? Then you start looking a little bit deeper, and the whole point is just to start questioning stuff. Don't just be so consumed by, oh, well, they're on TV, the media, they're on TV, so I mean, they can't be lying.
Well, how about the people who want to say Bitcoin's a Ponzi scheme, and they're using dollars, which is literally
by definition,
it's literally a system that needs new money printed into it so that it doesn't collapse because the debt is so large that it cannot be paid back. Yeah, I agree with you. Let's keep asking those questions. Well, this is awesome. I really appreciate the time. We're coming up on time. You showed the big print. I bought that book too. I haven't read it yet. People are saying it's great. Give the people one. So you're making great stuff at GenZ Bitcoin, GenZBTC, YouTube, X. Do you have one other recommendation of content that you like or where you like to get your Bitcoin content?
Every single video that I post, in my description, I copy paste the same thing. And it is a list of resources that I recommend people to use outside my channel. Because the whole point of my channel is not so that I can get views and then get money and then get sponsorships or whatever. Because otherwise I would have picked a better niche. All right. The point of me making Bitcoin
content, crypto.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I would be making XRP content and like selling t-shirts to all these morons. I'd be rich. The whole point is to inform people about something that is bigger than myself, that's bigger than everything almost. You know what I mean? And that's the whole point of like our money being destroyed, because when our money is destroyed, really what we're destroying is our time. Because when people say time is money, they're not joking. There's a reason why you work hours of your day and you get paid dollars. You know what I'm saying? So you're sacrificing hours for money. Time is literally money. That's the topic of this next video. You probably can't read it. I don't know if it's reversed, but 10 minutes equals a block equals Bitcoin. And that means you could kind of change the equation. 10 minutes equals Bitcoin, which then means time equals Bitcoin. I'm going to break it all down on my channel. Make sure you check it out. All right. That's a nice plug. I know you like that.
Nice plug. Yeah, that's dope.
But yeah, if I had to recommend anyone, just watch Bitcoin University. Bitcoin University, it's the most like simple, clear cut. I mean, he's the biggest channel for a reason. He's been doing this for a long time, a lot of informative videos. And when I tell you there's not a single question that guy hasn't answered yet, because when I was getting into Bitcoin, like for real, after the collapse, at the end of 2023, my whole thing was, how is this going to fail? How is this going to go to zero? That's all I researched for months. And I came back with basically no answers. And that's when I decided, okay, this is the thing. And super awesome. So I say Bitcoin University, go check it out.
I'm with you, dude. He crushes it. I'm with you. I have the same thing where like I said to you, like when people throw those throw FUD or throw criticisms at Bitcoin, I'll look for resources to find like, the answers or, like to figure out, are they right? Are they wrong? So much of it comes back to him. He's got a video on everything and he's addressed every topic and every issue and he's super thorough and the info is it's like 15 minutes and you learn like so much. So that's a great recommendation. I agree with that. All right, man. Well, we're going to tune into your next video. We're going to check it out, learn my time is Bitcoin. I appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been super fun. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. One final plug. All right. Yeah. I just got my Ross Ulbricht Silk Road Anonymous hoodie from Strike. Right. So shout out to Ross Ulbricht. He got freed. That is absolutely incredible. That just shows the power that Bitcoiners and individuals have, to influence governments, to make certain decisions, to free people who really did nothing wrong, in my opinion. So shout out to Ross, man. This is a super awesome piece. It was a limited print run. Super excited to rock this. The proceeds went over to helping out Ross and all that, getting him back acquainted to the life that he lost, and shout out to Strike. Best place to buy Bitcoin, in my opinion. Again, I'm not sponsored yet, maybe one day. And that's just the app that I use. Super awesome. No fees when it comes to recurring buys. So just keep stacking, keep dollar cost averaging. When's the best time to buy Bitcoin? Yesterday. So the second best time is today. So just get started, guys, and learn about Bitcoin. Learn about Bitcoin before you buy it. Otherwise, you will lose all your money because of you. You will make bad decisions. So just study Bitcoin, study Bitcoin, study Bitcoin, stay humble.
Dude, I love that. You and I are the same. We're super aligned on the messaging, and like I changed the TikTok handle thing that says on my thing it says study Bitcoin because I'm the same with you. Like, learn about this thing. Like, study this thing. If you want to buy it first and have a little skin in the game to help you learn, and that keeps you motivated, like go for it. But learn about this thing so that you understand what's really going on. That's awesome, man. Your content is dope. This conversation was super fun. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Stack sats or die trying.
There you go. I need a good tagline like that.